Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a massive hidden crisis that's quite literally lurking right beneath our feet in rapidly expanding cities all over the globe. Picture this for a second. You're looking out at a city skyline. You see a place that just keeps booming, right? Shiny new buildings are popping up every single month. Roads are stretching further and further into new suburbs. Above ground, everything looks like absolute textbook development. But under the surface, completely out of sight, something is fundamentally broken.
So let's really get into this. While everyone is busy marveling at these gorgeous new high-rises, raw sewage is actively flowing into open drains. It's spilling across public pathways, and it's seeping directly into the groundwater itself. And honestly, it abruptly forces us to ask a very simple but totally devastating question. How in the world is new construction even legally permitted when the basic waste system of the city is already failing? It's this wild paradox of modern urban planning. We are literally building the future on top of a system that is actively destroying the environment beneath us.
To unpack how we actually fix this mess, we'll quickly walk through 5 key areas: the illusion of growth, a failure of sequencing, the one simple rule, strict implementation rules, and finally, shifting the incentives. Part 1. The illusion of growth, a public health hazard. In so many regions, development just explodes without any matching sanitation capacity. Buildings get thrown up first, and the infrastructure is supposedly going to come later, but, sometimes it never actually does. So what happens? Well, sewage is always going to find the easiest path. It escapes out into public streets, it flows over open land, it floods into stormwater drains that were only ever meant for rain, and most critically, it leaks right into our underground water systems. At this point, this isn't just a simple pollution issue anymore. It becomes a massive, large-scale public health hazard. Groundwater gets totally contaminated, diseases spread like wildfire, and entire communities end up suffering from long-term, completely irreversible sanitation damage.
Part 2. A failure of sequencing. Wrong sequencing.
The crucial thing to understand here is that this system failure isn't because we lack engineering knowledge. We know how to build pipes. The failure is a fundamental, incredibly costly mistake in the timeline. The old way of doing things allows the buildings to go up first. But the huge problem there is, once those buildings are already standing, the streets are paved over and people have moved in, trying to retroactively install a sewage system becomes insanely expensive and highly disruptive. It's a complete logistical nightmare. The new paradigm, what we call Sanitation First, flips this entirely on its head. It dictates that the infrastructure absolutely must be built first, and buildings can only follow once that foundation is securely in place. It's all about getting the sequence right. Part 3. The one simple rule. Sanitation first. This is the absolute core mantra of the policy, and honestly, it's beautifully simple, yet incredibly powerful. Ready? If underground sewage infrastructure does not exist, development is completely and unconditionally blocked. No new construction in any form is permitted. That means no new buildings, no reconstruction of old ones, no expansion, no redevelopment, and absolutely no adding extra floors. If the sewage capacity just isn't there, the development simply does not proceed. And we aren't talking about it being partially blocked or conditionally blocked. It is completely 100% blocked. Part 4. Strict implementation rules. Enforcing standards. Now, how do you actually enforce a hard stop policy like that in the real world? Well, it has to apply strictly across all types of urban structures with 0 exceptions. Let's break it down. For new construction, if sewage is absent, permission is automatically denied, just blocked entirely. For existing buildings, obviously, people aren't getting kicked out of their homes, normal use is totally permitted. However, there is absolutely 0 expansion allowed. No extensions, no redevelopment that would increase the population load because that would increase the sewage output. This guarantees that old systems don't suddenly get overwhelmed. And finally, and this is a really critical piece, for roads in areas without sewage infrastructure, there is no new road laying, no road widening, and no major redevelopment. Why? Because civic infrastructure has to follow sanitation readiness, not the other way around. You're probably wondering, what happens if someone just decides to ignore the rules and build anyway? Well, the enforcement is severe. Building without permission under this framework isn't treated as some minor code violation. It is handled as unauthorized construction that actively endangers public safety. Action is escalated quickly through existing laws. Step 1 is an immediate stop work order. If that gets ignored, Step 2 is the physical sealing of the property and the complete disconnection of all utilities. And if the situation requires it, Step 3 involves the outright demolition of the unauthorized structure, along with some seriously hefty fines and legal prosecution. The teeth on this policy are very sharp. But wait, what if the municipality itself is the bottleneck? What if the local government is the one delaying the infrastructure?
There's actually a built-in legal mechanism for exactly that scenario. If the city fails to act, affected parties, which includes landowners and builders, can actually take the municipality to court. The courts can review the situation under existing legal procedures and legally force authorities to comply with their statutory duties. It basically enforces administrative accountability to make sure these infrastructure obligations are actually met. So the whole system stays entirely within the existing legal structure, but it becomes heavily enforceable right from the ground up.
Part 5. Shifting the incentives. Pressure shifts upward.
Because of those incredibly strict rules we just talked about, the entire incentive landscape of urban development completely shifts. Builders can no longer just buy up a plot of land and start pouring concrete. They literally cannot proceed without sewage. This means they are suddenly highly motivated to actively lobby for that infrastructure themselves. Municipalities, now facing immense pressure from citizens, builders, and the courts, can no longer ignore or delay that demand. Older areas are effectively locked out of the financial windfall of property expansion until their upgrades are finished, and our civic road networks simply cannot grow without sanitation readiness. The pressure naturally shifts upward. Instead of this mad rush to build first and figure out the plumbing later, absolutely everyone is incentivized to demand and build underground sewage systems before the development happens.
To wrap things up, the core principle we've covered today is simple yet profound. Development must follow sanitation capacity, not outrun it. Because when a city is expanding its sewage output directly into its own soil and its own drinking water, it isn't truly growing at all. As the source material so powerfully puts it, that is not development, that is delayed collapse. It really forces us to ask ourselves, when we look at our own rapidly expanding cities, are we witnessing true, sustainable growth? Or are we just watching a very shiny, very delayed collapse? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I hope this gives you a totally new lens through which to view the cities we all live in.